Hey, church family, I hope you're having a great time getting together for the first community group of 2024. Thank you for taking the time to get together, and I hope that this will be a time that is both challenging as well as encouraging for each and every one of us. This past week, during my studies for Sunday's sermon, I came across a passage in Deuteronomy chapter 32, verses 44 through 47. I want to read this for us. It says, Moses came and recited all the words of this song in the hearing of the people, he and Joshua the son of Nun. And when Moses had finished speaking all these words to all Israel, he said to them, Take to heart all the words by which I am warning you today, that you may command them to your children, that they may be careful to do all the words of this law. For it is no empty word for you, but your very life. And by this word you shall live long in the land that you are going over the Jordan to possess. Now, Deuteronomy chapters 28 through 30 are extremely important for us throughout the remainder of the New Testament, especially in both the major and the minor prophets, because those three chapters in Deuteronomy lay out the principles of blessing and curse that are tied to God's covenant with Israel. Now, there's a kingdom principle that's caught up in these chapters, and it's not that the people of Israel can earn God's merit or earn God's favor. Instead, the kingdom principle is a statement of fact that God honors His covenant with His people at all times. Now, after Moses has recited to the people of Israel the words of the law, he and Aaron wrote down a song in chapter 32 of Deuteronomy, and they repeated it to the people of Israel. This song was to serve as a way to remind Israel of God's faithfulness, of His promise to bless, as well as His promise to discipline when the people of Israel broke the covenant. But what really fascinates me is in these verses, starting in verse 44, that we just read. And I love that Moses and Aaron recited the words of this song, the text says, in the hearing of all the people. It's such a wonderful truth to know that God's Word is not hidden from His people. God has revealed His Word for a purpose, and it's for our benefit and for our instruction. And Moses and Aaron, we read, they were united in their presentation of this song. And the principles of God's faithfulness and His sure Word are what secured both Moses and Aaron's ministry before the people. So let's look at this passage together. I love what's said here where Moses and Aaron say in verse 46, Take to heart all the words by which I am warning you today. Now think about that phrase, take to heart. This phrase means to receive something in a serious or a worthwhile manner. You know, if you value something, if you cherish something, if there is something in your life that is of extreme importance to you, then you are going to go out of your way to make sure that that something is always honored and treated appropriately and shown respect. And that's what Moses said the words of the law were to be for the people of Israel. He says in verse 47, these words are not empty words. These are not meaningless words, but these words are your very life. And so I like to picture kind of a family type meeting that Moses and Aaron had where they gathered the people of Israel together. Now I know it's more people than can fit in the living room, but this idea of gathering everybody together, having everyone sit down, and Moses leans in and says, look, we need to talk. We need to have a conversation about something that is of extreme importance. Put away all the distractions, put aside anything that's going to get in the way of you hearing what I'm saying, and we need to talk. This family meeting is something where Moses and Aaron sat down and they leaned in like others have done to me recently, and they said, hey, I need you to hear me in this. I need you to hear what I'm about to say to you. You know, we all have times when we need people to sit us down and tell us something. And Moses and Aaron did that. And notice what they did. They set them down and they said, we need you to take this word to heart. And here's what we need you to be sure and do. Here's why you need to take it to heart. First of all, you need to be sure that you're going to hear this so that you can obey this. The adults had to learn to abide by the words which they received. Second reason they needed to take these words to heart was so that they would pass these words on to the next generation. And it was essential that they pass these words on to the next generation so that that next generation could take these same words to heart. Moses was saying, this is so important. First of all, you've got to apply this in your life. Secondly, you've got to pass it on to someone else. And third, they've got to apply it in their lives. You know, you cannot do that which you do not know. And you likely will not do that which you do not see in others. Lake Fork Baptist Church, I need you to hear me in this. God is faithful, and He will honor His promise and glorify Himself in and through us. He will honor His word and make us His witnesses in the world. He will honor His word and provide for His church. He will honor His word and equip His children to serve for the building up of the church. Lake Fork Baptist, I need you to hear me in this. God desires and He deserves your obedience. I need you to hear me in this. You need to pass down to the next generation the truth of God's Word. And I really need you to hear me in this. The next generation will not obey God's Word if they don't know it. And they likely will not obey God's Word unless they see it being obeyed and applied in your life and in mine. You know, as a church, we're walking through a time of transition in ministry. And I have a prayer for this time, and I hope that you'll join me in it. My prayer is that God will allow us during this time of ministry transition to have a united ministry for our families. To have a united ministry for our families. And I hope that you'll join me in asking these questions. Questions like, are we ensuring that quality scriptural teaching is taking place in every single ministry to adults? Are we making sure that we're leaning in and we're telling one another, you need to take this to heart. You need to take God's Word to heart. You need to live by His promises. You need to live by faith. And you need to live in obedience. I need your help in making sure that we are passing God's truth on to one another. But we also need to strive together to make sure that we are helping parents and even grandparents alike learn God's Word and apply God's Word and teach God's Word to the next generation so that they too might walk in obedience before God. Lake Fork Baptist, I need you to hear me in this. I love you, and I'm so grateful for you, and I know that God has a great plan for His church.